Hi guys, welcome to my new video. Today I will talk about LGBTQ community in Russia, the situation of LGBT people in Georgia, and comparison of this to the United States. I'm so glad that finally I can talk with you about this, and let's begin. So I consider myself a part of LGBT community and I'm a lesbian, and I have felt this way since probably 16 years old, but only several years ago I confessed this to myself and realized what I really want and why I have not made a video about this topic, because I am so embarrassed talking about this. Too often I get comments where people don't take me seriously. For example, recently I got a big comment, a whole essay from a man who states that I'm actually not a lesbian and how you can claim that you don't like men if you never tried relationships with them. I guess the dude knows better. And I get a lot of comments like this where people say that I'm influenced by this Western degenerate agenda. I betrayed Russia, the bastion of traditional values. And another reason why it is so difficult to address this is because my sexuality is a normal part of my life. I'm used to this. It's usual for me, but I realized that for some people it is not obvious. And on YouTube there is a feature that shows what part of a video people were replaying the most. And whenever I mentioned something related to my queerness in my videos, people would replay this moment because, oh my god, everybody was so shocked. I feel uncomfortable when I remember that in this heteronormative world, people think that I'm straight by default. I'm also very embarrassed by the fact that some people think that I turned gay only after I left Russia, because I'm this soy liberal kid who doesn't understand anything, who betrayed her motherland for this evil woke West. It is so ridiculous because actually, as I said, I finally realized who I am about 5 years ago. And when I started this channel, I already lived with this realization. And I wish I included this important information about myself in my videos earlier, but I just didn't know how to start talking about this. Again, my channel was about Russian culture, and I wanted to make this big, well-researched video about LGBT situation in Russia. So I was trying to be perfectionist, but eventually I'm just making this kind of Q&A coming out video, and I'm so glad about this. And there is a question: what was it like to grow up as a lesbian in Russia? Did you experience homophobia, and was it hard for you to accept it? Well, it's funny how until the age of 16 I was homophobic, and even though I was smart to know that gay and trans people are okay and that it is not a mental illness, I still was saying like, I don't like that they are promoting it to children in the movies and TV series. It is just trendy, that's why they are doing this in the West. And I was a big Eurovision fan, and I was so angry when Conchita Wurst won, and I was like, no, it is just... And funny enough, 3 years later I realized that I actually like girls, but I still thought that I'm a bisexual and that I might also like boys. And my female friends and classmates would date boys at the age of 14 and 15, but I never was interested in guys, and I thought that I just haven't met the right one. But I remember that back then I did have crushes on girls. I just didn't know what this was. I thought that I liked them as friends. And now it's so funny to look back at it. And I kept this thought in my mind that I might want to date girls in the future, but I lived in this small remote town, and I just was postponing having relationships for the better times when I moved to the bigger city. And when I was 21, I finally realized that I'm a lesbian and I'm interested only in girls. and it felt so right. I remember this feeling of relief that I had after I finally came out to myself. And probably if you live in a Western country, you have some acquaintances or maybe a gay aunt or uncle or some celebrities and even politicians who are openly gay or trans. And in my town, there was no representation of queer people existence. I could not discuss this topic with anyone. There are no school psychologists in Russia. Mostly this thing just is non-existent. And if there are school psychologists, well, they have this Soviet mindset and you'd better not damage your psyche by going there. And there's another question: what is your coming out story, especially coming out to parents? And the thing is that for me, this coming out to parents never happened, and I'm probably lucky that I didn't have to lie or to hide something from them because, well, I just didn't talk with them about my personal life. But oh my god, it would be such a disaster if they learned about this, because back then I still lived with them and depended on them economically. And well, my family is this typical Russian dysfunctional family where all the abuse included, yes, our traditional values. And now, speaking about my family, I want to go to the present times and tell you about my coming out that kind of actually happens. So, as I said in my videos like 2 or 3 years ago, I would mention some queer stuff, and my mom would ask me questions about this. She was like, "Are you one of them?" But I just never replied to this question. And several months ago, she asked me again after my video in Armenia, where I discussed some gay stuff with my friend and included it into the video. And my mom texted me like, "How can you discuss this so openly, and how you can be friends with such people? Are you one of them?" And I was so tired, so I texted to her, "Yes, I'm one of them." And after that, oh my god, I got such a wave of insults and rude words. "Who are you now? You're not a human. You chose the wrong path. This is all this West that influenced you." After that, we kind of stopped communicating for about half a year. We would send each other text messages about some unrelated household stuff, but we never discussed this topic until recently, after half a year, when she asked me something and I addressed this topic, like, "Don't you want to apologize?" And she's like, "No, because this information is so shocking to me and you're embarrassing me in front of the whole town because your colleagues watch my videos." So anyway, I just lost any hope in changing my mom's mindset. And again, like, I wouldn't expect too much from people who grew up in the Soviet Union, and it is this small remote town, it is poverty. Here's what you have to understand about Russia: it's that people don't associate queerness with some sin. People are generally not religious. They would say that they are Christians, but only culturally. They eat colored eggs on Easter and the Easter cake, and that's it. So when it comes to talking about homosexuality in Russia, it is about prison ethics, because in the Russian prisons, men rape other men, and this is considered as a means of humiliation. And that's why parents in Russia are basically scared for their kids. How my child will live this life? It is so unacceptable in our society. So again, returning to my coming out story, like, I don't care if I will be disowned or whatever. When I was watching some Western YouTubers coming out videos back then, I was like, what if I had to say this to my parents? And I was like, whatever, I don't care. In my family, for years, my parents beated me. And this happened to me on regular basis until the age of 14. And back then, I was smart enough to understand that it is not normal. And that's why when I imagined this situation in my head, what if my parents disown me? I was like, they already detached me from them, like from this family, so I don't have such a strong emotional connection to be sad about them excluding me from this family. And I feel sad talking about my parents like this now, because actually in the past 4 years we had good relationships, and I would come to Spask for the holidays. But why I'm sharing this all now is just to show you how people in Russia live. It is normal for Russia. If you ask people with the Soviet mindset, is it okay to beat children? Many of them, not all, but the bigger percentage than in the Western countries, will say that yes, it is right, you have to educate them. And I want to add something on the religious part, because even though I was baptized, my parents never took me to church, and thanks to them for this. But I had a conversation with a girl who grew up in the Catholic environment, and she realized that she's bisexual. And even though now she is not practicing her religion, she still has this installed in her mind fear inside of herself that God will punish her and that she will burn in hell. And for me, this is something unusual, because I cannot imagine something like this. Because when I think about my romantic life, it is something so personal, so intimate, so that I would not let anyone to take it away from me, whether it is some people, parents, or God. Why I need such a God who wants me to suffer for who I am, who wants me to burn in hell? I never had this. I'm so lucky. Another question is, can you talk about LGBT community in Russia versus Georgia versus studying in Minnesota? Queer life in Russia was prospering, and even though our government passed this law against the LGBT propaganda in 2013, still there were movie festivals, even attempts to have rallies and pride parades. There used to be charity organizations that helped queer people, but they all were declared foreign agents and basically cannot continue their work in Russia. There were gay clubs in every big city, and I even went to a gay club in Khabarovsk in 2021 and visited a drag show there. Speaking about Russian celebrities and show business, oh my god, so many closeted queer people there. Still, there was some freedom maybe 10 years ago, but unfortunately now repressions increase, and now it's even scarier, and it is notorious how they kill and torture gay people in Chechnya. And well, all over Russia, these right-wing activists stalk, dogs, and attack queer activists or just queer people. And what is more, our authorities facilitate this violence and make a scapegoat out of these minorities. Like now they censor books and foreign movies, make rainbow black and white, and recently there were police raids on gay clubs where they break in with guns and detain everyone and force them to sing shaman. So it is terrible now. Speaking about Georgia, where I've lived for 2 years already, well, I used to think that it is better here because at least they did not have this homophobic law. There is a gay bar in Tbilisi, and you can even see that it says gay bar in the Google Maps. I was so shocked. And as this recent foreign agent law protests show, people want to have European values, and there were attempts to have a pride parades and even some closed pride events, but they were disrupted, and these right-wing activists attacked people there and even killed one journalist. And unfortunately, Georgian government recently passed this law similar to the Russian one about, oh my god, protecting children from this LGBT propaganda. I also asked some Georgian girls about the queer situation here, and oh my god, they told me such stories. The craziest stories happen in the remote villages. And one girl told me about a woman who lives in a village. She was forced to marry her husband, and she is a closeted lesbian, but she has kids with this man and she cannot escape this situation. And when I hear this, I'm so sorry. I think I could not live like this. I would just unalive myself or try to escape to another place. And well, as comparison to the United States, where I studied 2 exchange semesters, it is just a different world, because on the campus there was a resource center for LGBTQ students, and you could go there and get support, and there were psychology consultations, and it was totally acceptable. And in our international students company there was a guy from Guatemala, and together with him and other students, queer, straight, we would go to the gay club, and it was so fun. And so having this experience, I now understand how it should be in a normal society. Therefore, I will answer the question, would you like to have children later in your life? First, I was growing up thinking that eventually I would have to have a husband and children. When I realized that I'm a lesbian, I thought probably I will not have children, because in this homophobic society I don't see how two females can raise a child. There must be a female and a male figure in the house, because even considering myself progressive, I still had these gender stereotypes, because for example in Russian schools for the labor class, girls learn how to cook and sew, and boys learn electricity, carpentry. So I thought that it is important to have a male figure, but as I was getting rid of such stereotypes, I realized that parents don't necessarily have to be a mother and a father, so a man and a woman. It's just important so that there are two of them, which is already pretty rare in Russia, because we have this joke that Russia has the biggest amount of same-sex families, a mother and a grandmother. If there are two men or two women loving each other, loving their child, it is amazing, and they will be able to raise their kid without any prejudice and gender stereotypes. So I changed my opinion on that. But another challenge I have here is that I don't want to damage my body by giving a birth. I was raised with the stereotype that it's actually useful. Even gynecologists would say girls that they would not have problems on the gynecology part as soon as they give birth to kids. But later I learned that it's actually very harmful for body. I just want to point out that it is a problem when women are judged for the fact that their body changes. Some women gain weight, some women have different health problems, or there is this postnatal depression, and personally I'm so scared of this. And another thing is that the whole concept of giving a birth, for some people their goal is to continue their generation. I don't judge them for this. I don't think that it is embarrassing. I think that, well, they have this goal, this is what brings them happiness, and well, good for them. I think I would be a good parent. I love children, I am trying to be mentally stable. I'm not going to beat my children for not washing their dishes, but at the same time I don't want to bring new life to this world. And it's kind of sad, because what if in 10 years I would want to have kids, or my wife will want to have them? Only editing this video I was like, oh my god, I completely forgot that there must be a man who participates in the process of making a child. I'm sorry, but yeah, in this case you can have a donor, or regarding what I was saying about health issues, you can pay to a surrogate mother. But still, for me, the idea of continuing my lineage and passing on my genes It's so weird. Like, I don't comprehend this. But I think that adoption is a solution in this situation. I don't have to create new life. Like, it already exists. It's already there, right? Because there are already kids in orphanages who want to be in a family. And yeah, this is how I answer this question for myself. But as for now, I don't want to have kids maybe in the next 7 or 10 years of my life. And due to the fact that I lived in such a closed society, never seeing any representation, now I feel that I am having what my classmates and friends had in their teenage years. I didn't date anyone that age, and I'm starting exploring this world only now, and that's why I'm so embarrassed when it comes to flirting, to meeting other people. Like, there is no specific scenario. And I think it's common for queer people to start their romantic life later than heterosexual people. But still, it gives me so much doubts and insecurities. And I want to share one more thing. It is very important for me because this is what I have been struggling with for months, my inability to find a relationship. So there was a question, how do you overcome loneliness? And well, the answer is that I don't overcome it, I suffer from loneliness. And I have this wrong idea in my head that once I have loving relationships, my life will be better, which I know is wrong. And I have to feel as a complete person. I have to be happy and enjoy my life without other people. But it still hits my self-esteem so hard when I basically cannot find a girlfriend. And now I want to tell you about my adventures on Tinder. There are many girls from Russia on Tinder here in Tbilisi, and Georgian girls as well. I also tried Bumble, but it is so hard to navigate all this process from match to an actual meeting, because so many people just don't answer my messages. And I have a good profile on Tinder. I think I have a couple of decent pictures, a description. I don't write something embarrassing, like I'm trying to be polite and all this stuff. And sometimes girls answer to me, but then they ignore or ghost me. Well, I also was the one who would not answer on time, and then I never answer back because too many days passed, and I feel so insecure and miserable that I cannot find a girlfriend, and I can't even get to a situation where I would meet one because people basically don't answer you. And in Tbilisi, there are no new profiles. I usually see profiles of people who I saw like half a year ago, and I feel so desperate when I hear some advice like just go to a bar, to a club, and start speaking with a person. Because, well, it is impossible for me. First, I don't go to bars, and second, I have this social anxiety, so that when it comes to communication, I basically cannot look people in the eyes. I have this post-event rumination. I learned that there is a term for that. So after any social communication, I return home and start reviewing my mistakes. Oh, here I said this and they think that, or here they didn't understand my joke, and here I behaved awkwardly. I'm still fighting with it, but this cartoon, Inside Out 2, it helped me a lot. I did try to ask out a girl who I met at some event and I like her, and we went for a walk. But during our conversation, I didn't ask it directly, but I figured it that she's straight, and I'm like, another situation when the person is straight. Oh my god, it would be so easy if I was straight. I would receive so many matches on Tinder from guys. So now I basically gave up on the idea to find a girlfriend whatsoever. So answering the question, what helps me with this loneliness is probably well, some health issues that I had to go through in the past weeks. Yeah, a good way to distract myself. Well, my hobbies, hanging out with friends. I noticed that when I do exercises and sport, it's also easy. So the solution for me to not feel lonely is just do something. And also I stopped going to Tinder at all. Like, I don't open the app. I froze my account there, and I don't know when I will be so desperate to get it back. So to conclude this video, I would say that I see how my queerness shaped my personality and made me to look at Russia and the Russian government through this lens of critical thinking. Because even when I was growing up, I already saw and understood what our government was doing by all these repressions, and back then I already knew that it is not okay that the authorities antagonize me and make other people to hate me, using this homophobia as a part of their official policy. And I'm so glad that I made this video, because unfortunately there are misconceptions and myths about Russia. You can see this in the YouTube videos where people walk in the central Moscow streets, film well-dressed women, and create this idea that Russia is the only country when the traditional family stayed untouched. Russia is fighting with the woke West and the generacy. And under such videos, there are many comments like, not a trans person inside, or no fat people, no people with green hair, how wonderful is Russia. And I'm so angry because, well, queer people exist in Russia. There is the same percentage of them as in any other country. It's just that they suffer more. And another myth that exists about Russia is that, well, yes, there are queer people in this country, but they live a normal life, especially in big cities. Nobody attacks or harasses them. And yes, there is this law, but it's only against LGBT propaganda, so that they don't promote it to children. And this is wrong to think like this, because no, there are repressions, there are people being killed and stalked and put to jail for this. And it is a problem, and how dare these people lie about this? If you are a queer person, I want to support you by this video, and everything will be alright. Happy belated Pride Month, but we all know that Pride Month is every month. And oh my god, I'm so happy I finally made this video. Thank you for watching, thank you for supporting me. If you want to support my channel, you can go to my Patreon or become my YouTube sponsor and get exclusive emojis. Also, there are other ways to support me under this video. Don't forget to watch other Q&A videos on my channel. And thank you very much. And have a good day, good week, good life, and goodbye. Пока-пока.